Hey guys, how's it going? Professor Shackle here, and I'm back with our first video of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I decided to take part in this kickoff tour to celebrate the collaboration between Smogon and Draft League, which I thought was a really cool concept. Finally, Smogon has recognized Draft League as an official format, and this is a cool new way of promoting growth for draft leagues and getting like more players involved. So I thought it was pretty cool, and I decided to take part in it. Over 1,000 people signed up for this, so this is a pretty big tour. And the reason I signed up for this was so far I haven't played any Pokemon Scarlet or Violet at all. No ladders, no leagues, no tours. And there is a new phenomenon in Gen 9 which is called terrestrialization, or Terra. And personally, I think it's broken, but obviously I have no right to say anything without having tried it myself, like having faced it in battle or using it. So I was like, okay, let me play and form an informed opinion about it. So I signed up for this tour because this is like seemed the perfect way of learning the new generation. A low pressure, just for fun tour. So yeah, the format for this tour is pre-home Paldea deck. So there's pretty limited decks, and you know the move pools are obviously limited, but it should be fun nonetheless. It was draft pools of 8, and we got 6th pick. And as my usual strategy, I just tried to pick the most broken thing left on the board when it came to me. In this case, it happened to be Roaring Moon, which does have the restriction of no Terra, which in hindsight makes Roaring Moon not as good as it is with Terra. In my opinion, it kind of plays similar to Tapu Koko from Sword and Shield, where it is better as an enabler with like U-turn and bringing in threats, rather than it being able to win on its own, just given like the meta and the Pokemon around it. Like it struggles to sweep off the bat, given people know, like, you know, you have a Roaring Moon. But new toy syndrome, I was like, oh sure, I'll use him. He is pretty fast and strong physically, so obviously I prefer a good, strong, fast Pokemon, so it does fit that. So yeah, it got him. Next pick, I got Ironmoth, which will also serve as our Terra captain. So only Ironmoth will be allowed to Terra. And again, Ironmoth I thought was a good complement to Roaring Moon, being a fast special attacker. And they both kind of cover each other's weaknesses. Like Roaring Moon is 4 times weak to Fairy, but Ironmoth 4 times resist Fairy, which is kind of cool. And obviously Roaring Moon resists like Water and Psychic that Ironmoth is weak to. I thought both had pretty good stabs, and they were fast and strong. One was physical, one was special, so I thought there was good synergy there. Next up, I really wanted Azu, but we got Snipe, so I ended up with Slowking as a bulky water. Slowking did lose Teleport this gen, which is a little unfortunate, but it did gain Chilly Reception, which sets Snow and switches out, so kind of like Momentum. Not as good as Teleport, obviously, because Teleport had the negative priority, but you know, there's still something. It kind of functions the same as the Slowking from Sword and Shield. Next up, Klefki. I decided to grab Klefki as my Steel and Fairy. Klefki is obviously a really good disruptor of like offense and setup sweepers with like Trick, Lagging Tail, Thunder Wave with the Prankster, Screens, Spikes, you know, all the good stuff. I thought he cannot be that bad, especially in a gen with limited removal, so Prankster, Spikes, and Screens are really good. Next up, I really wanted Baxcalibur to go with the Slowking Chilly Reception, but again, it got sniped. So I ended up with Glimmora to get some more hazards of my own. Glimmora gets Rock, Spikes, and T-Spikes, which is really cool. Has 2 really good abilities in Corrosion, allowing us to poison Steel types, because Glimmora is one of the few Pokemon that actually has Toxic in this dex. And then Toxic Debris, which sets up a layer of T-Spikes whenever it's hit with a physical attack, which is pretty cool. Next up, we were really racking up the ground weaknesses, and we didn't have a resist, so I decided to grab Slitherwing to complete the Moth Core, as well as have a ground resist, because most of the grasses this gen are pretty terrible. So Slitherwing is a much better option as a ground resist. He has some really cool options as well in like First Impression for priority, U-turn for pivoting, Will-O-Wisp and Stun Spore to punish switches, Flame Charge to boost speed, Bulk Up as setup, pretty good stab, obviously, same stab as Buzzwole, has some coverage options in like Earthquake, Wild Charge, just missing ways of hitting fairies really hard, but that's about it. And I guess a little bit of like waters that have a typing that, you know, is resisted by the stab, but next up I wanted a ground type so that people could not volt switch all over me, so I decided to grab trusty old Mudsdale, who pretty much functions the same as Sword and Shield Mudsdale, just a solid ground type defensive. And we had 1 point left, so I just decided to grab Pikachu because I thought it would force the most prep, but he's unlikely to come in like any game. Maybe there'll be a matchup for him, but I highly doubt I would ever bring him over the other 7. So yeah, that's our team. For the first stage, we were put in groups of 5, and the top 2 would proceed to like the single elimination bracket. So yeah, let's just jump into our battles. I will be going over them in order of how I played them. So starting off, we are up against Maru SPL. I believe the SPL does not stand for Smogon Premier League, it's for some other thing. But anyways, let's jump into this matchup. Our opponent has a team of Talonflame, Breloom, Garganical, which was the Terra Captain, Haxorus, Azumarill, King Gambit, and there was the Gengar and Sandy Shocks on the bench, which I was really terrified of, but I was really happy to see neither of them. For threats for this matchup, Garganical can obviously be really annoying with the right Terra type and like Iron Defense, Body Press, Salt Cure, Recover. And then I was really terrified of Azu too with like Belly Drum. If he found a pretty good check to Roaring Moon, offensive Azu could really be demon. So yeah, let's just jump into our team really quickly. Starting off, we're leading with the Iron Moth with Boots. Terra type of Water. I wanted a type that resisted Aqua Jet just because I was scared of Belly Drum. And Water just felt like the best defensively because Dragon is, you know, Azu could still play off it, and like, you know, if it was a lure or something, and like Scarf Haxorus and stuff. Water just felt the best defensively, and also gave me Terra Blast for the Garganical, which I thought was pretty cool. So we're just running Stab, Fairy Dance, Sludge Wave, Flame Charge, because I felt my Iron Moth's offensive matchup was really good, so if I could use it to outspeed like Talonflame and the Gengar, it could be really cool, and then Terra Blast to hit the Garganical and Talonflame with the Water. Next up, we are Slowking with the Color Berry. We're running Ice Beam, Future Sight, Focus Blast, and Slack Off, very Fist Death. This is supposed to be a lure to the King Gambit because we can eat any hit from it, and then Focus Blast will kill him. Future Sight was also really good because his only resist to Future Sight is the King Gambit, and if we can get in our Iron Moth or Slitherwing in while Future Sight is up in the air, we can definitely do some good work. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Ice Beam hits the Breloom and Roaring Moon in 1. Didn't really feel like Talonflame would be a big threat to Slowking anyway, so I didn't pack coverage for it. Next up, we have Slitherwing with the safety goggles to kind of help us versus Breloom, so that we won't be put to sleep. And I didn't think he would run like Air Relays in this matchup. And we're running the First Impression, which is just to, like, you know, pick off like maybe a weakened Azu or King Gambit, like if they've SD'd up. Haxorus, of course, if it's DD'd up, and like a Sword Stance Breloom as well, just to pick those up. Earthquake, which hits the Garganical, the Sandy Shocks, the Gengar. Wild Charge, which hits the Talonflame, is the only coverage it has to hit the Talonflame. And Flame Charge, because again, I thought the matchup for it was pretty good, so if you can Flame Charge and make sure that Talonflame is in range and the Gale Wings is broken, we can Wild Charge take it out. Next up, we have Roaring Moon with the Choppleberry. The Choppleberry is just for the Breloom Mach Punch in case of like Banded Mach Punch or something. We're running Dragon Dance, Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Thunderfang. Dragon Claw is just the best stab for it. Earthquake is for the Garganical, the Sandy Shocks, the Gengar. And Thunderfang was for the Azu. I believe it does about 60-ish, if I'm not wrong. So if you can chip the Azu with some of our other mons, we should be able to take it out. And yeah, Breloom would be the most likely way of revenging, because obviously Roaring Moon at +1 outspeeds everything on his team. Barring the Talonflame, but I don't see a Scarf Talonflame coming. So Breloom would be his most likely Revenger, and Choppleberry kind of helps us with that. Next up, we have an Assault West Mudsdale, which was supposed to be our check to Sandy Shocks and Gengar, because we didn't really have anything for those. And I didn't feel like trading Mons whenever Gengar was in at the start. I kind of wanted to slow it down a little bit. So we're running Earthquake, Body Press, Rock Tomb, Close Combat. Body Press kind of hits almost everything pretty hard. Rock Tomb is just to slow down stuff. And Earthquake's still like good damage. And yeah, Close Combat was for the King Gambit. And also hits the Breloom pretty hard. And lastly, we have Glimmora with the Rocky Helmet Toxic Debris. This is a way of switching into Talonflame to break the Gale Wing so that our Slitherwing, if it flame charges up, can take it out with Wild Charge easier, and to get rid of that priority Gale Wings. And obviously setting up T-Spikes is really nice. We're running Earth Power, Power Gem, Sludge Bomb, and Spikes. Earth Power is pretty good coverage here, hits the Garganical, hits the King Gambit, the Sandy Shocks, and the Gengar. Power Gem hits the Talonflame, and Sludge Bomb hits the Azu and Breloom. So, still pretty offensive for sure. So yeah, let's jump into it. As for leads, I don't really have a planned lead for this, but seeing no Gengar and Sandy Shocks, my Mudsdale was basically useless. So I thought it was my best lead because it did hit everything hard and didn't allow setup that easily. And it was like the best throwaway on just to see what kind of strategy he's coming up with. So I just let Mudsdale, as he does lead the Azu. We do get the matchup wrong, but I don't want him to belly drum for free, so I just fire off the Earthquake because we are adamant. So we do have and pop the Citrus, which is really good. And we just decide to sack the Mudsdale, not letting him belly drum for free. I send in my Moth and use this to Terra immediately into water, as we do resist the Aqua Jet, and I can now just Sludge Wave and take out the Azu. So that's a big threat gone, and one of the things that would stand in the way of Dragon Dance Roaring Moon. In comes the Breloom, and I decide to scout for the Scarf Breloom because I have lost a game in the past, a tour game, to a Scarf Breloom because I did not think that was a set, so I'm not making that mistake again. So I go into a Slitherwing, which, as I said, would be our check to the Breloom, as he does click the Bullet Seed. And here, expecting the Talonflame, because he doesn't really have a good close combat switch in right here. I make the double into Glimmora as the Talonflame does come in. And here I decide to click the Spikes, expecting a U-turn or swap. I wasn't sure what he would go into. I thought it would be the King Gambit, expecting Power Gem. But he makes the pivot into Haxorus and reveals the Lumberry. So I was like, oh, he's probably like DD Lum for the Klefki that I have. Here I make the pivot into Slowking. Because he's not a boosting item, he cannot kill us at +1 with anything, as he does DD. So I was like, okay, I just have to Ice Beam to, get him in range of First Impression. But he does reveal to be a bulkier Haxorus, as he eats up that Ice Beam really nicely and is able to take us out with Earthquake. But not the end of the world, because this is still in range of First Impression, and if he had Protect, then we might have lost on the spot, but I didn't really feel like he had room for Protect. So we're able to First Impression and take him out. In comes the Talonflame, and I go back into Glimmora as he clicks Defog, which is fine because I can set them back up. But here I make a little bit of an aggressive read. He cannot let his Talonflame go down, or the Slitherwing will kind of just win with close combat spam. So expecting that, I expect the King Gambit to come in on a Power Gem. So I make the read and click Earth Power as the King Gambit does come in. We're able to Earth Power and to it KO it, even with the leftovers. So I click Earth Power here as he does decide to click Sucker Punch to get some chip off, which does set the, the Toxic Spikes, which is really good. In comes the Garganical, as I decide to just Earth Power this as well. I wasn't sure what he was going to Terra into, but usually I see Terra Fairy on these things, and you can't really Terra Fairy here. So maybe Water would be the other one, but he decides to just stay in an Iron Defense. The Spit F drop didn't matter because we would have still killed after lefties. But here, since he had Defense, I just click Earth Power again as he does make the read into Breloom. And here I go back into Slitherwing, deciding to keep Glimmora for the Garganical. As he clicks Bullet Seed and gets 3 hits again. And here I decided to click the Flame Charge. Obviously the Garganical was weak, so I was like, I might be able to pick him off with like Earthquake after the Flame Charge. So I click Flame Charge as the Talonflame comes in, and now I click the Wild Charge and I'm able to take him out. And luckily live as well. And here I believe I click Earthquake because I didn't know what he would tear into, and he tears into water and recovers. So I was like, okay, good play by him. But here I can just click Wild Charge and knock myself out, and get my free switch into Ironmoth as he does click the Iron Defense. Here I'm Water type, so I click Sludge Wave, and if he decides to attack me, he will die. So, which is basically what I'm going. Sludge Wave does enough to nerf the Recover, and the moment he attacks me, he will die. Yeah, as seen, like he clicked the Salt Cure, and did damage to me, but because he did that, he got 2-hit killed by the Sludge Wave. The crit didn't matter because I believe we were hitting 45 was like the min. And here I make a slight misplay. I go into Glimora, not really sure why. I should have just gone into Roaring Moon and taken this out because we were Chople. But I guess this confirms Scarf, I guess. But yeah, definitely a misplay here, but it only luckily ends up costing me 1 diff because we do have the Chople intact, so we can just take this out with Dragon Claw. And yeah, that's our first game. A 1-0 win, like really close. I guess a little bit of rust as well because I haven't played in like 2-3 months. But obviously good to start a tour with a win, like, you know, build some confidence. So yeah, let's jump into the next game, which is against Youngster Bill, who is actually a pretty well-known draft league player. Was DPO Season 5 MVP, and has won a bunch of individual tours as well. And he also has this unique style of drafting like teams that look really weird on paper, like they don't look balanced at all. But he manages to do really well with them, so that, you know, huge props to him for, you know, drafting like out of the box and stuff. Anyway, he has a pretty interesting team because he has Iron Valiant, which many people believed was the best Pokemon available on the draft board, and it's really offensive. And he had a Hydreigon after, which he benched in this one. So he started off with a very offensive core, and then drafted a really bulky fat team of Corviknight, Blissey, Clodsire, Skeledirge, Toedscruel, and he also had a Dondozo which he left on the bench. So that's right, that's 3 unaware Mons. Corviknight, which is a really good physical wall, and Blissey, which is on the best special wall. So this team is really incredibly hard to break and has some really good typings in like Steel Flying, Poison Ground, Fire, Ghost. Skeledirge is also the Terra Captain and can choose to turn into Fairy to help. So yeah, really bulky team, but you can't just go with like hard breakers because there's an Iron Valiant waiting to just pick off, you know, after everything's been weakened trying to deal with the stall. So really interesting team, and honestly, I didn't really want to play this matchup because I was like, oh, this is such a pain to kind of think what to build around it. But I thought we had some interesting prep, so let's jump into it. Starting off, Iron Moth, we are running Stab, Terra Blast with, again, Water to hit the Clodsire and the Skeledirge until it terras. And U-turn because I believe Blissey is one of the best checks to Iron Moth because I can't really do much to it. So I thought U-turning out on Blissey and getting momentum was better than like trying to, you know, set up or do damage versus it. So yeah, that's basically the team, but obviously once the Blissey goes down, this mod is demonic for sure. Next up we have Slowking, and I wasn't sure how to beat Unaware with Slowking, so I ended up going for Calm Mind, Stored Power, Ice Beam, Slack Off, kind of basing this on the fact that he may be, if he makes a mistake and I'm able to get up a couple of Calm Minds, I could maybe sweep him with Stored Power, because obviously Unaware cannot ignore the stored power, like boost, like the base power increase. It will ignore like the boost itself, but not the stored power, base power increase. So that was the plan with Slowking, but in hindsight, like this is obviously going to be tough and kind of relies on the opponent making mistakes, and Bill's a really good player. Next up we have Slitherwing with the Choice Band, which I thought was one of the best way of taking advantage of Iron Moth U-turning on Blissey. And if we can get the predicts right, this can definitely, weaken the team enough for us. So choice band, and we're running close combat, earthquake, U-turn, and wild charge. U-turn was just to, kind of figure out what would be his pivot into this. Close combat was just really, really strong in general, especially if the pivot, like a Spidef Cloudsire gets to it, KO'd by it, and a Fistef Corviknight gets to it, KO'd by it. So pretty good click, especially if, things have started falling off. And this was supposed to be Flare Blitz, but my change did not save. I was initially Wild Charge for the Corviknight and Dondozo, but then realized Close Combat is the same power as Wild Charge on both of them, so I don't really need Wild Charge. And then Flare Blitz is a stronger hit on the Corviknight, as well as like a Terra Fairy Skeledirge. And because I'm running Sunny Day Klefki, spoiler alert, which would also boost the Flare Blitz, Wild Charge made no sense, but unfortunately it didn't save my change, which was a little unfortunate, but not the end of the world. Next up, we're running Roaring Moon with the Citrus Berry, just for some longevity, and we're running Crunch, Taunt, Acro, U-turn. I was pretty sure the Skeledirge was going to be like Terra Fairy, and there's not really much we can do about it. Also because we can't really do much to the Fistef Corviknight and Dondozo anyway with the Roaring Moon, so I just thought Taunt was better to kind of like stop them from healing up or whatever. Acrobatics was our way of revenging the Iron Valiant, but in hindsight I think I made a mistake here too. I should have been speed boosting, but I guess the extra attack always helps. And then U-turn just to like get momentum. Next up we have Mudstale, pretty offensive, because he didn't really have the best ground switch-ins, but I mean he did have Dondozo, but I have plans for like kind of weakening Dondozo with the Slitherwing, hopefully. So we're running Earthquake, Body Press, Endeavor, and Stealth Rock. I thought Endeavor could be a late cool tech, like once we're low, to kind of just bring down something really low to help, like, Iron Moth or Slitherwing kind of sweep. And last we have Klefki with Black Sludge, which this is also going to be a guaranteed lead, or dedicated lead as we say, to trick it, because I thought this was one of the best way of like crippling the Corviknight or Skeledirge, which I thought would be the switch-ins to it, because giving them a Black Sludge and then taking 1/8 damage every turn instead of like recovering leftovers or avoiding hazard shit with boots would be pretty cool. Sunny Day was just to kind of help our double photosynthesis mon as a last ditch attempt when we die. Draining Kiss just, to do damage to like the Valiant and stuff. And then Spikes just to hazard stack back, because he also does have a lot of hazards on his team. So yeah, let's jump into it. As I said, I was going to lead Klefki. Also, I made a really big misprep in that I didn't really think Toadscruel would come. I was pretty confident this would be benched in favor of the Dondozo, and I thought the Dondozo had to come to kind of cover for the Slitherwing, which is definitely like scary for sure. So I didn't really prep for the Toadscruel, and then I realized I don't really have a good swap for it because I didn't have like a Spore swap to give him. So when he led the Toadscruel, I just clicked Switcheroo because I didn't really deal with this. So giving it the Black Sludge felt like a good way of chipping it down. And so I tricked him to Black Sludge and get lefties, which works out for me, and because we have Spidef, we do eat the Earth Power. And here I decide to click Spikes to just set up a lair, as he does click Spore. And here I believe I go into my... I go into my Roaring Moon because I knew it didn't get anything to hit me, and if he like knocked me off or whatever, it didn't matter because we had the Acro. And if he decided to set hazards, I would be able to taunt him. But he makes the pivot into Skeledirge and immediately tears into Fairy, which is what I expected. So I just click U-turn and go into Iron Moth. As he does click Terra Blast, and it does nothing. And here, I believe I just click U-turn expecting the Blissey to come in. Because the Skeledirge is already terred and obviously doesn't want to take the Sludge Wave. So I U-turn and go into my Slitherwing and decide to just click Close Combat because since he terred, he doesn't have an immunity. As he does go into Corviknight and takes 57%, revealing to be Rocky Helmet, so he is Fistef. I decided to just click it again as the Scarlet does come in, and it still takes 30%, revealing it is max HP with some physical bulk. But here I decided to go into Mudstale and get up my rocks. I does click the Torch Song. Again, since I was going in blind, I didn't know what Torch Song was, and I didn't know it was a 100% chance to boost special attack. And I was like, oh, my Mudstale actually does not wall this, and because I was not running Heavy Slime and he had defense investment, my Mudstale was not beating this 1v1 as I thought it would, even though I was max attack, which is a little bit of a bummer and like misprep by me. Obviously the rush showing, as he's able to just Torch Song up and kill me, and as you can see, our Earthquake's not doing a lot of damage. But I guess it's good chip, but he's able to take out our Mudstale here. And here I decided to go into the Terramoth, Ironmoth. I believe it terrored here, and I do click the Sludge Wave as the Clodsire does come in, and not the Blissey this time. I guess covering for like the U-turn play again. Here I click Terra Blast as he does click Spikes. He hits that pretty well, but he does reveal to be Spit Out. And here I believe I click Terra Blast again, hoping to just take it out as he does make the Blissey pivot this time. So I decide to click U-turn, and I go into my Roaring Moon, as he does click Rocks. And here I decide to click Taunt, in case he was like Thunder Wave or whatever, but he does go into Clodsire, which I can crunch and take out. So that's one piece gone, so that's a little good. In comes these Skeletors, so I decide to just U-turn and go back into Moth, as I believe he slacks off. Yep. And here, I believe I clicked U-turn as he makes the pivot into Corviknight. And I go back into Roaring Moon, and I believe I clicked Crunch here. Yep, I clicked the Crunch. But the Skeletors comes in, and because I'm not packing Iron Head, I can't really do much here, so I U-turn and go back into Moth. As he does click the Terra Blast this time, it does do a good amount of damage. And so this time I decide to stay in and click Fury Dance. And then getting greedy, I just decide to click it again. Not really sure why, but the Blissey reveals Thunder Wave. Because either way, the Blissey was going to click Thunder Wave or Soft Boil, and I wasn't going to beat this 1v1. And obviously taking this Terra was really bad because this was one of her way. Basically, if the Iron Valiant dies, Ironmoth can kind of win because he gave me the Blissey, and like we killed the Toadscruel, we killed the Corviknight, and we definitely threatened the Skeletor. So I think I misplayed with the Ironmoth here a little bit, but we are able to get rid of the Blissey. But this was one of our only special threats. I mean, we have Slowking, but our Slowking is like Blissey, I guess, was not the Slowking check for him. It was probably Toadscruel or Skeletor. But anyway, in comes the Valiant, and here as I said, I make a slight misplay as I sack off the Ironmoth. But in hindsight, I should have probably saved it just to apply some pressure versus like the Corviknight or, you know, Skeletor still. Because obviously the Skeletor did 31 with Terra Blast, so it was not killing us. And I believe we were like still faster than the Corviknight, I would think. Maybe not, but like if basically if we get in on the Skeletors, we definitely threaten it with the Sludge Wave, so I should have definitely kept this thing around. But I do sack him off for whatever reason. And I go into my Roaring Moon and eat the Citrus, so I can now Acrobatics him. As he decides to sack off the Toadscruel this time. So basically making sure he brings his Skeletor in safely so he's not in danger of like 2 crits or anything. Which is really good play by him. And in comes the Skeletor. I can't really do much here, so I just Acrobatics. I don't really have a pivot this time. So basically I was hoping Acro did enough, so where that Slither Wing, it would be in range of Slither Wing. But here, unfortunately, I had thought I still had Flare Blitz at this point, but then I realized I had Wild Charge, so my only hope at this point is a Wild Charge crit, and we don't get it, and he's able to Torch Song and kill us, and that is the game because given our Slowking set, we don't beat this, and the Skeletor is just going to win because Unaware ignores the Calm Mind. And Shadow Ball's gonna do a ton, and we can kill him because he has stored power and Ice Beam, was it? yeah, stored power Ice Beam, so we can't really do much to him. And yeah, our Klefki is asleep and hasn't taken a sleep turn, so yep, GG. Really well played by Bill. Scarlet Dirge Terra was definitely demonic, and I obviously had to prep for it a little bit. Maybe it could have been better if I did have Flare Blitz and I played the Klefki better to where I could set the sun, because he didn't bring Dondozo, which was pretty big. In my opinion, like, it allowed my Slitherwing to be slightly better. Also, in hindsight, I should have definitely bugged Glimmora here, because Corrosion Toxic was really good. And I could obviously Mortal Spin and get rid of the hazards, but I was a little put off by Blissey. Like, threatening, walling basically Glimmora. So, that's why I didn't bring it, but in hindsight, I should definitely try to fit in Glimmora, which I think could have put in more work. But anyway, that's a loss, which makes it a little scary because we definitely need to win our remaining 2 games to progress out of pool. So let's jump into those. Next up, we're playing Fly Casanova. I do not know my opponent here. I have no information. I don't know if they're a Smogon player or if they're new. But we're also up against another Terra Scarlet Dirge and Corviknight Core. And they have a Chien-Pao as well as Sylveon, another Toedscruel. And again, I did not prep for this Pokemon. I definitely did not think it was coming. A Quaquaval, or the Water Star. I don't know how you pronounce his name. And I believe they had... What did they have on the bench? I don't remember what they had on the bench. Because there's a Mudstail, I want to say they had a Sandy Shocks. Yeah, okay. They had a Sandy Shocks on the bench, and again, I was terrified of the thing. So yeah, let's just jump into our prep. And as usual, leading off with the Iron Moth with Heavy Duty Boots, Terra Water for the 3rd time, Stabs, Terra Blast, and Morning Sun. The Stab Terra Blast was for the Skeledirge, the Sandy Shocks, and Water just felt like a good way so that Quaquaval like couldn't revenge us, and like Ice Shard was not a kill, and it's just like one of the best defensive Terra typings for Iron Moth in my opinion. So yeah, just with that, and again, it has a really good matchup offensively, and there's no Blissey this time, so he definitely struggles a little bit with the Iron Moth. And obviously Water is a good, if you can Terra early, Water makes Iron Moth a good swap into the Skeledirge, which is good. Next up, we have a Rocky Helmet Slowking, which is our check to the Duck. The Duck is not Terra, so it can't really do much to us. And we're running Future Sight, Yawn, Slack Off, and Surf. Future Sight again because the only dark... Well, there's a Corviknight that resists Future Sight, but the only Dark type is like the Chien-Pao. And if we can get in like Klefki or Slitherwing or Iron Moth again in while the Future Sight is up, we can definitely do some work. Yawn was just in case. I felt at a point where like the Duck was not a threat. I could click Yawn versus a Chien-Pao because I don't want him to SD, because SD Chien-Pao is definitely scary. And Surf was just to, you know, like neutral hit. Next up, we have Slitherwing with a choice card. This is a way of revenging the Chien-Pao, especially if it's like SD. So U-turn, Flare Blitz, because Flare Blitz hits Corviknight the hardest, as we know from last game. Close combat's just the Stab, and Earthquake is to hit the Skeledirge before Terra, as well as hit the Sandy Shocks. So yeah, next up we have Mudstail with the Air Balloon. The Air Balloon was because I thought the Sandy Shocks would come with like Volt Switch, Earth Power, and like Hazards. I didn't really think he would carry another like attacking move outside of Stab, because he doesn't really need to. So I thought he might not be able to touch my Mudstail. So I went with Earthquake, Smackdown, Heavy Slime, and Stealth Rock. Again, I didn't expect the Toedscruel, so I felt if I smack down the Corviknight, he won't really have a good switch into Earthquake because he doesn't really have a resist. And Heavy Slime was just for the Sylveon and Skeledirge because I was terrified of the Terra Fairy Skeledirge and Sylveon last time. So yeah, Spidaf to kind of help us with the Sandy Shocks, even if he has like Power Gem or whatever. Even though I don't think we need it. And next up we have Klefki with Max Fistaf. This is our Chien-Pao check. When running Draining Kiss, Reflect is just to again help in case it's SD. spikes because spikes are good, and then Thunder Wave is just for like if the duck gets out of hand, or like the Skeletor or Sylveon are getting out of hand. This is, because Yellow Magic is definitely a win con. And last but not the least, we have Glimora with Black Sludge Corrosion this time. As I said, it's the better set versus Corviknight, and obviously it's also good to like poison the Skeletor, which can get out of hand, and to like toxic Calm Minding Sylveon. Mortal Spin to get rid of the hazards because he has a lot of hazards, spikes, rocks, T-spikes. Power Gem and Sludge Bomb are just stabbed and hit like pretty much everything on his team. As for leads, I believe I just led Slitherwing here because I thought it just covered everything and gave me a free U-turn based on what his lead was, especially because I saw a Toadscruel, and last time a Toadscruel was led versus me, so I thought Slitherwing would be good for that. Or for like a Chien-Pao lead, so I decided to lead off with Slitherwing as he does lead Corviknight. I am Scarf, so I'm just going to U-turn, but he swaps, so I'm not really sure why. Maybe he thought he was covering for like Choice Band Flare Blitz. But we're able to U-turn and get momentum as I decide to go into Slowking. I guess I could have gone into Iron Moth and Terror immediately, which would have also put pressure, but I decided just going to Slowking and fire with the Future Sight, as in comes the Toadscruel, and again, I don't really have a swap for this, so also because I know the duck is boots, it's not as scary. I thought, okay, let me just if he wants to click Spore, I'll let the Slowking go to Spore because I felt my other Pokemon were more valuable. In hindsight, maybe I could have let Mudstale go to sleep, but it was my initial pivot into Skeletor, so I thought of keeping him for now. So I just click Yawn here, as he does click the Knock and gets rid of her helmet, but not the end of the world. And here, after clicking the Yawn, I go into Mudstale expecting like the Sylveon, but in comes the Corviknight. But I was like, okay, cool. I believe I just clicked Rocks here. Corviknight swaps, but I'm not really sure why, as in comes the Toadscruel, and I go back into Slowking as he just spins, which is fine. I believe I just clicked Future Sight again. I click Future Sight again as the Chien-Pao does come in as I go into Klefki, but he makes a really good double and goes into Skeledirge. So I make the pivot back into Mudstale. Obviously the Sandy Shocks is not here, so this is like the most expendable. As he does click Torch Song, and takes the Future Sight, which does a good chunk. And here he tears into Dragon, which was a little interesting. But I guess since he had a Sylveon, he didn't really need to Terra into Fairy, because he did have a couple of checks to Roaring Moon already, and like Fist F Corviknight and Sylveon, and obviously Chien-Pao can Ice Shard the Roaring Moon as well. So I guess Dragon was a better defensive typing for him to kind of cover for Iron Moth, because now none of Iron Moth's stabs will hit it super effectively. And Terra Water, which is like the most common Terra on Iron Moth, is not going to hit it either. So pretty good bring by him. I was a little pigeoned in on like Terra Fairy coming, so Terra Dragon was definitely cool. He clicks the Wisp and misses, which is a little unfortunate for him, as I decided to just set up rocks on that turn. And this turn he clicks Torch Song again, which is fine because now I can just Toxic this thing, this Demon Mon. As he reveals not to have Earth Power and just clicks the Slack Off, which is fine with me, as we're able to get a Toxic off on it, so we can kind of stall it out now. And here I believe I click Sludge Bomb, but he makes the play into Corviknight, which is fine, as I can now poison this as well with Toxic. Maybe I thought we were Toxic Debris, but we are packing the Corrosion, so we're able to get a Toxic off on the Corviknight too, which is really cool. As he does click the U-turn and goes into Toadscruel. And here, expecting the Earth Power, I go into Slitherwing, but he clicks Mirror Coat. Not really sure why, because I don't think Glimora gets a move that OHKOs Toadscruel, or like even does good damage to it. So, and obviously, like he's faster naturally and can Earth Power. I would never stay in to attack this, right? So not really sure why this click came out, but it works out for me because I'm able to just U-turn, and he decides to sack off his Toadscruel. Again, interesting, but I guess he didn't want me to get the momentum, which is fair. But I'm able to kill it and just go into Glimora to, heal up a little bit. Oh, also, my Glimora is very defensive, so we live one crunch from Adamant Boots Chien-Pao, I believe, and kill it with Power Gem. So that was the reason. In comes the duck, and I go into my Slowking as he makes the double again into the Chien-Pao. And this time I thought he might SD because, you know, last time I'd shown the switch to Klefki and maybe he's going to SD and then try to Sacred Sword me through or something. So I decided to just click Yawn as he does click Crunch and we're able to live. As he goes into Corviknight, and I believe we go into the Klefki, yep, and get a regen back. Here I decide to just click a layer of spikes. If he wants to defog, it's fine because he's toxic. We can keep spiking. We're able to spike his U-turn, so he goes into Scarlet Dirge. And I go into Mudsdale as he misses another Wisp. Really unfortunate for him. But he hits now as I click Smackdown, but don't do a lot. But obviously the toxic damage is racking up. And here I believe I make the pivot into Ironmoth expecting a Slack Hop, but he goes into Corviknight. I guess which works, I guess expecting the Earthquake. And here I believe I just Terra finally to get my defensive typing and I click Fairy Dance and take it out. He didn't really have a good switch into this. As I said, Ironmoth is really good offensively. He goes into the Chien-Pao, and obviously I had also put bulk into my Ironmoth to live a Boots Crunch from Chien-Pao. So I'm able to click Fairy Dance and take it out as well. And in comes the Scarlet Dirge. I guess he thought he could just take me out, but I do reveal the Morning Sun. And I'm able to heal up. And I click the Sludge Wave, do a good chunk as he clicks Wisp, I guess, because he wanted to Hex. As we do resist Torch Song, which is, you know, cool. But I decided to just click Sludge Wave as he swaps because the toxic damage was obviously racking up. And he goes into the Duck, and here I know he's Boots, so he's not Scarf, and Aqua Jet's not going to do anything to me because it resisted, so I just click Sludge Wave and take him out. So obviously Ironmoth putting in the work. And in comes the Scarlet Dirge. I just Sludge Wave again as he does Slack Off. Here, I believe I Slack Off this time, expecting a Hex, so like, you know, so I can stay a little healthy. As he does Hex, so, which is, I guess, a good play by me because if I didn't Hex, actually, I had Morning Sun because I didn't want to die with the Scarlet Dirge. I wanted to be healthy enough so that I could chunk the Sylveon if needed as well. So now, after the poison damage, he's in range of Sludge Wave, so I'm able to click it and take it out. In comes the Sylveon. I can just Sludge Wave this as well. He's not Boot, so he's already at 75%. So I Sludge Wave, he clicks Protect, which is fine. I just click Sludge Wave again, does a good chunk as he does click Calm Mind. So he was Calm Mind Sylveon, probably with like Wish Protect or maybe Psy Shock. I'm not sure. But this is not going to save him because the Sludge Wave did too much, and this is still going to do like 40%. He would need like a bunch of consecutive Protects in a row to make it out, but that's obviously not in his favor. So we're able to pick this up 6-0. Definitely a little hexy because he did miss a couple of Wisps, which obviously hurt him because he wasn't able to click Hex. But Mudsdale was our most expendable, so, and I feel like Ironmoth plus like Slitherwing, Glimora were definitely gonna be a little hard on his team because, you know, poison coverage was just really good versus his team because he didn't really have like good resist. So I feel like we would still have had it in the bag, but obviously like it definitely sucked for him, the misses. But I think letting his Scarlet Dirge get poisoned was kind of like he was in a downhill, he was at an uphill battle from the moment Scarlet Dirge got poisoned, because that was his best way of like breaking my team, I feel, apart from Chien-Pao. And because he got poisoned, he wasn't able to because he always had to like slack off and switch before the toxic damage got too high. So yeah, definitely, like I feel like we prepped and played a lot better than the other games, so you know. And now we just need, the last game was basically a virtual knockout game. If we win, we're through. If we lose, we're out. So let's jump into that. Our opponent for this last game has a pretty interesting team. Rocking up with the Roaring Moon, Torkoal, Scizor, Great Tusk, Slitherwing, Knuckle stack, like the Garganical pre-Evo, and he also had a Slowbro and Hatterene on the bench, and I was really terrified of the Hatterene. And I was really happy not to see it. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting team. Torkoal Sun with like a bunch of Photosynthesis Mon. His star captain was Scizor, which is obviously pretty scary too, because like Sword Stance, Quick Attack, Bullet Punch, and getting that extra oomph on either with Bullet Punch or like Terra Steel or Terra Normal can definitely be pretty threatening. So yeah, definitely a tricky matchup because this is like an unconventional team. But we do have some pretty interesting prep as usual. We're running our fourth Terra Water Iron Moth. As I said, Water is just one of the best defensive typings for Iron Moth. So we have some bulk. I don't remember what. Oh, I believe the bulk was for Scizor because terrified of SD Scizor with like Trailblaze. Or like, the speed boosting Scizor like move. So I definitely wanted some bulk so we didn't die to like a +2 Bullet Punch or Quick Attack or whatever. So this is for that. Fairy Dance, Sludge Wave, so stabs as usual. It's pretty strong. Morning Sun and then Energy Ball to hit the Slowbro and the Knuckle stack in one, as well as the Great Tusk. So yeah, still pretty offensive. I believe the speed was for the Great Tusk. Next up we are Slowking with the Tanga Berry, so this is a lure for the Slitherwing. And we're running Ice Beam, Shadow Ball, Psychic, and Flamethrower. Ice Beam hits the Great Tusk and Roaring Moon. Shadow Ball hits the Hatterene and Slowbro the hardest. Psychic hits the Slitherwing, as well as hits the Great Tusk. Also, it's our best of hitting Torkoal because in Sun, Surf's not going to do much. And Flamethrower was for the Scizor because I was terrified of Scizor and didn't want to let it set up in front of me. And Tango Berry was just for the lure on Slitherwing, which is also like pretty hard for us to swap into. Next up, we have a Booster Energy Slitherwing with Flame Charge, Leech Life, Earthquake, Acrobatics. The idea behind this was, and the next mon was, one of them would break for the other one to win. So basically, with the Booster Energy, we get the attack boost, and Leech Life hits the Roaring Moon, hits the Hatterene, hits the Slowbro. Earthquake hits the Torkoal and Knuckle stack pretty hard. Leech Life obviously hits the Slowbro, Hatterene, and stuff. And Acrobatics hits the Slitherwing pretty hard, as well as the Great Tusk. And actually Okos both of them. So, and Flame Charge was just to boost speed. Ideally, our target to set up on would be Scizor. Or maybe even a Roaring Moon if you're feeling cheeky, like trying to scare him out with the first impression. So yeah, but the point is, if one of these breaks, the other one should be able to win, because next up we have Roaring Moon with a Booster Energy as well. Max attack, max speed to speed tie with the Roaring Moon. And we're running Crunch, Acrobatics, Scale Shot, and Protect. Protect is just for the first impression. Acrobatics, again, kills both the Great Tusk and the Slitherwing. Crunch is just like a pretty good neutral hit, and Scale Shot was to hit the Roaring Moon as well as boost our speed. Next up, we have Klefki with the Shuka Berry and max defense. This is our Roaring Moon check. We're running Magnet Rise just in case after the Shuka we can, kind of avoid it, because I didn't really think you would run Fire Fang in this matchup. Foul Play was for the Scizor because I said I was terrified. Draining Kiss was just to hit the Roaring Moon as well as heal. And then Flash Cannon was for the Hatterene because I was terrified of Hatterene. Like, Combine Hatterene with like max Fizz-Def was really scary and I wasn't sure how I would beat it. So yeah, that was for Flash Cannon so that it couldn't, do much and I would be able to chip it down because his best way of hitting me with Hatterene is Mystical Fire. And Draining Kiss wouldn't heal a lot, so I could maybe keep it low enough where, I can revenge it with something. And last but not least, we have our dedicated lead, Glimmora with the Focus Sash. Max Special Attack Modest because that is our best role at killing a no-bulk Great Tusk. Like, Timid was a roll, but heavily in their favor, but Modest made it a roll heavily in my favor. And I definitely just wanted to get rid of the Great Tusk on lead, especially if I think, he might click like rocks or something. So yeah, we're running Energy Ball, Sludge Wave, Earth Power, and Rocks. Just trying to be as offensive as possible. Of course, Scizor can't set up on this so I didn't want that to happen. So I ran Earth Power for like the maximum damage. And Rocks are good in case the Torkoal's like, Heat Rock or something, and it chips it down for the Slitherwing. And obviously Toxic Debris is good because he doesn't have a poison. So, and I believe like Magic Bounce or stuff cannot block Toxic Debris, which is really good. So yeah, let's jump into the game. As I said, I was going to lead Glimmora as he does lead the Great Tusk. So as I expected, I just click Energy Ball. As he does click Rapid Spin, I guess maybe he thought he would be slower, and this way he can spin my rocks away as well as be faster and just take me out in case I'm sash. But I just click the Energy Ball and do get the roll and take him out. This was also an interesting interaction. I thought the Rapid Spin would go first and Toxic Debris later, but it's actually the Toxic Debris that goes first, which is really interesting. So I don't get my T-Spikes up. But it's not the end of the world. In comes Roaring Moon, and I go straight into my Klefki. If he would have clicked Raw EQ, I would have just Magnetized next turn because we were Shuka. But he does click DD. We are Shuka, so I decided to just click Draining Kiss now. But he clicks Iron Head. I guess he was expecting Magnetize, so I clicked the Iron Head, or maybe I was going for the flinch. I don't know. But we're able to Draining Kiss and just go back to full. And I just clicked it again because I didn't want to mess around with the Roaring Moon. As he goes into Knuckle Stack. And here I believe I just go into Glimora as he Salt Cures me, which is fine. I believe I just clicked Earth Power here, expecting the Scizor to come in. And yeah, we're able to do 41, which is, good damage. Here I go into my Iron Moth as he just clicked the Bullet Punch and reveals to be the Life Orb, which is pretty scary. But I use this to just Terra immediately as I click Fairy Dance. Do get the boost, which helps me take out this Knuckle Stack with the Energy Ball after. So things are looking really good. In comes the Roaring Moon. And reveals to be Boots, I guess? Yeah, because he didn't take the T-Spike. But I just stay in and click Sludge Wave. Didn't want him to DD up again. In comes the Scizor and tears into Steel. I just stay in because I don't want him to SD. So he's able to take me out. But I go into my Slitherwing. Activate the boost energy is activated, so I'm able to just click Flame Charge as he does make the swap into Torkoal, and he is now Boots, and the toxic damage does help as I just click Earthquake because even if he killed me, I could go into my Roaring Moon and Crunch or Scale Shot. Actually, Crunch would probably be better. Now, don't want to lower my defense for the Scizor Bullet Punch. So I was just trying to weaken the Torkoal, but we were actually able to take him out, which is great because now I can just click Flame Charge on this Scizor. As he does click Bullet Punch and does a lot of damage, but we're able to click Flame Charge and take it out. And last one is the Slitherwing, and we can just Acrobatics and take him out and win our game 5-0 and make it through to the next round. So yeah, this was our group stage run so far. I definitely enjoyed this. It's been low pressure and been a lot of fun playing with the new Pokemon because we do have 4 of them, like Roaring Moon, Iron Moth, Glimora, and Slitherwing, the double Moth Core. And the double Moth Core has been doing really well because I believe most of my kills are between Iron Moth and Slitherwing, which is pretty cool. Roaring Moon, as I said, I was a little disappointed. It wasn't as broken as I thought it would be. No Terra really hurts him. Oh, speaking of, my thoughts on Terra, I think it's bannable even in a draft format because I guess in draft you can kind of know the best Terra types versus you, but I feel like it's still a chance ball on what Terra they're gonna, when they're gonna Terra basically. So there is still 50-50s on when is the best type to Terra, right? And obviously, even though there's some obvious Terra types, you can definitely go for some niche options as well to kind of help you versus something you struggle against. You can, I've seen Terra Ghost for E-Speed Dragonite and stuff. Even though Terra Fairy wouldn't make sense as a defensive typing, they would go for Ghost so they can Extreme Speed, stuff like that. Also, I've seen stuff like Terra Fire to avoid Will-O-Wisp or Terra Electric or Ground to avoid Thunder Wave. So there's definitely Terra just is, I think it's really broken, and for that there's not much counterplay to it. I feel with Dynamax in last gen, I was broken, sure, but if you played it, there were ways around it where you knew what the Pokemon could do, the moves it had, so you would know what the max moves of that type would do. And you obviously had your own Dynamax later, so you could try to stall it out, or you could use it later to kind of, position that way. But with Terra, I feel there's not as much good counterplay for at least while prepping. You cannot be sure what they're gonna do, right? So I don't know. I still feel it's bannable, and obviously you can see how good it makes up, like how good it makes certain Pokemon. Like Ironmoth with or without Terra is a huge difference. Same with like Roaring Moon. There are very few Pokemon that are like really good with without Terra too, like Chien-Pao and stuff. But some mons just get really demonic and really good with Terra. I feel like if they nerf Terra so that once you Terra, your original stabs are lowered to like 1.2 boost instead of like the 1.5 boost it is, then maybe it might be better because like you still keep some boost on your original stab, but it's not like the full boost, which would make it a little easier to play around. I feel like that would be a better compromise. Because right now, like you basically get 3 stabs if you have if you're dual typing and you Terra into a different type, you have 3 stabs, and that's like crazy. And obviously, Terra Blast is a stronger hidden power, which last gen I liked playing without hidden power, so now having Terra Blast definitely feels a little, it makes like positioning stuff a little easier, I guess. The only good thing I would say about Terra is that it doesn't let you, come out of like Encore or like Choice or whatever like Dynamax and Z-Moves did. So I think that's pretty cool. In that way, it's like balanced, but you can still do stuff with like Choice Scarf and you change the type so that their priority doesn't, damage you or whatever, or you resist it. So that, stuff like that. But yeah, I really have fun. I will be uploading the rest of my like playoff run and like however far I make it. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks and bye.